Hi, Keshav here. Welcome back. In this video, I'm coming up with very big case study, which is going to cover the whole data migration project requirement. Alright, let's get started. Let me walk you through the case study. This case study looks to be only 3-liner case study, but depth of this case study would be huge. Alright, as I said, it's gonna cover the whole data migration project requirement. So what I wanted to do here, I wanted to develop kind of ETL framework for migrating the data from all the on-prem systems into Azure, and finally want to build the required data mods in Azure. Alright, that data mods includes facts and dimensions. Those further can be used for reporting and predictive analytics. This is whole requirement. Yeah, looks to be only 3 line, but there is depth in there. Yeah, I wanted to develop the migration framework with the combination of both ADF and T-SQL. In future video, maybe I'll develop the framework with a combination of ADF, T-SQL, and also PySpark. That could be either Databricks or maybe Synapse Analytics. Alright, so let me share my plan, exactly what here I'm planning. Just assume you got a project where you need to migrate close to 400 to 500 tables and more than 100 plus files. Those includes Excel's, CSV and JSON files. So it's not ideal to develop as many pipelines as tables and files. It's ideal and easy to manage if you can reduce the number of pipelines and datasets those you're going to develop to achieve your whole project requirement, right? So the aim of this framework is same. I wanted to reduce the number of pipelines those will be created and the development effort as well. All right, as part of my plan, so I'm going to create 3 layers in Azure. Going to be one landing layer, curation layer, and serving layer. Landing layer is the first layer which will be loaded with on-prem tables as is. So the tables, whatever those are loaded into landing, will be exact copy of on-prem tables. There won't be any change in there. All right. The curation layer is the next layer which holds the transformed data, and then finally the serving layer which holds the data in the form of facts and dimensions where data marts will be created. All right, so that's what it is. So to load data into all these layers, right? So I planned different pipelines. Let me just take you into next slide so that it will be more clear. So as part of this whole framework development, as I said, my aim is to reduce the number of pipelines those we are creating and also the development effort, right? So wanted to achieve this whole requirement with the minimum number of pipelines. So as per my plan, these are the pipelines those I'm gonna create. One is switcher pipeline, which will switch the flow based on the type of load that we are doing. So in case the type of load is stable, then flow will be directed to this pipeline, which loads the data from table into landing layer. In case the type of load is files, then flow will be switched to the file ingestion pipeline where the files will be loaded into landing layer. Alright, once data is loaded into landing layer, then after that it's same, both file ingestion and table ingestion would be same. Curation pipeline would be same for both. Alright, curation pipeline will apply the required transformations on landing layer and then load the data into curation layer. Alright, then next serving layer, which is going to be on top of curation layer and where we could see the facts and dimensions loaded. Alright, so these are only the number of pipelines those I'm planning. As part of this video, I'm not doing file ingestion pipelines, more or less same like table ingestion, but only the source will be different, right? So to make this video as short as possible, so I'm not doing file ingestion pipeline here. Alright, so along with these pipelines, I'm going to develop a data reconciliation pipeline. You can have data reconciliation pipelines across all the layers. If your requirement is to reconcile the data between on-prem and landing and curation and serving, of course you can have those data reconciliation pipelines built across all the layers to reconcile the data. But in here, again, to reduce the video size, I'm going to implement between landing and curation. in case if you want to implement between other layers, it will be same, the same logic you can implement there. All right. In the same way, if you want to create a pipeline for data quality checks across all the layers, that also you can do. All right. That I'm not doing in this video because it's going to be again a lengthy video. All right. So I'm telling again and again lengthy, but even though it's lengthy, this video gonna be definitely useful. Okay. All right. So this is overall plan, and these are the pipelines. Those are part of my plan. All right. If you look at the benefits, what benefits would be there with this framework? Okay. So this framework definitely aim to reduce the number of pipelines and datasets to be created, and of course it will reduce the development effort, and it will reduce the maintenance work, and also it will reduce the confusion, and of course easy to understand, easy to give KT for new joiners as well, because it's everything is at one framework, right? So, and also if you look at high level steps, those I'm gonna do, one pipeline to load the data from on-prem into landing, and that pipeline again will have few steps here. It will read the data from metadata table, then load the data, then finally there'll be audit entry as well. Once data is loaded, there'll be trigger file generated which triggers the next pipeline that's going to be landing to curation. All right. So in the same way, landing to curation pipeline, it will have same steps in there. It will read the logic, transmission logic from metadata table. Here when I say metadata, it's a config table. So then loads the data, then audit entry will be there. Finally again there will be trigger file generation. All right. Then that trigger file will trigger the next pipeline. That's going to be reconciliation between landing and curation. It will have same steps. Finally it will create trigger file. Then next pipeline will be executed. That's serving layer. Data load into serving layer. There similar steps will be there, except one step. There won't be any trigger file generation step, because this is going to be the final step in our framework execution, right? So there won't be need to generate the trigger file. So the end would be only audit entry. All right. So this is overall plan and high level steps going to be in the framework. And one major thing that you need to understand, always I spoke about metadata tables and config tables, but you need to understand what are those driving metadata and config tables going to be used in this framework. That's very, very important. So for that, I just created one model. It's very important to understand this model. So this model has got all the required config tables. Those will be used in the framework to make our framework effective and dynamic, right? So as part of this model, there is one table going to have all the source system details and specifications, from which source system ID and what is the source system name, then source schema, table name, in case file ingestion, then file name and file path. So I did not give all fields in here, but I used in real implementation I used more fields, but this model I kept very simple. So don't worry about the number of fields in here. In case as part of your requirement, if you need more fields, of course you can add more fields into any of these tables. All right. But one thing is there should be proper relationship between all these tables. That's where I said it's a data model, right? So I created a whole model. Each table has got relationship with other tables, and you could see that mostly the tables are related to each other through sourceSystemId. In few cases we can even join with sourceTable and targetTable also if you want to specifically pull the data. All right, so it holds pipeline execution status, and it holds curation transmission logic, and it holds reconciliation results. This table holds reconciliation logic. This table holds our serving layer logic, and this table holds link services details. But as of now I'm not using this table, because for me server is same. For you, for different source systems, if you got different server, different database and different ID and password, of course then it will make sense to use this table to make your framework dynamic. All right. So this is whole model. have a look. I'll provide all these details in the description. You can make use of them in case you have any doubt. So let me just take you guys into the scripts those I created. So I created scripts for all these tables those I shown in the model. In the real scripts, of course, I would have added more fields. All right, so it's completely based on your requirement. All right, so let me show you the databases. I connected to Azure SQL Server. I got 3 databases in here. AdventureWorks, this is going to be like my production database where I'm creating the final data mods, and all these layers will be there in this database. All right, landing, curation, and serving. In case if you want to have different databases for each layer, it's up to you. And then config DB, it's going to hold all the config table details, like that. This whole model will be sitting over there, and except this table as of now I'm just keeping in AdventureWorks DB, but as for your comfort, it's wherever you want to keep it, right? So I would recommend to keep all these tables in only config DB. So then next, on-prem DB, from where I'm trying to load the data. All my tables, those has to be migrated, are there in this on-prem DB. All right. So as of now, I got only 2 tables. Don't worry the number of tables. This framework is going to work for n number of tables, right? It just only thing is you need to manage and build the framework in such a way it should work dynamically for whatever the table that you are making entry in this table. All right. Later you should not do any changes in the framework except making entry in this table, and of course in the curation logic in curation table, and logic for reconciliation you need to make entry in this table, and logic for serving you need to make entry in this table for that specific object that you are trying to migrate, right? So that's what it is. Once your framework is built, it shouldn't be changed for any purpose until unless you are implementing new features or new functionality. I don't want to go through each and every line of the code that I created for scripts and tables. This is one table which holds all source system details. Then it's a pipeline execution status will be there in this table. It has got this many fields, and there is a SP created to load the data into this table that will which will be executed through pipeline. All right, so go through this code which I'll be pasting in the description. It will be self-explanatory, you can understand easily. All right, so if I spend time going through each and every line, I'll end up making this video for more than 5 hours or 6 hours, so I don't want to do that much. So I'm trying to reduce the size of the video as much as possible so that you can view it comfortably, right? So again, pipeline status will be updated through this SP, and yeah, then records being inserted into curation transformation logic table. Yeah, so that's what it is. So I'll show you the on-prem tables, those I'm trying to migrate. These are the 2 tables. If I take you there, these are the 2 tables. On-prem queries are there. These are the 2 tables I'm trying to migrate from on-prem, right? One is product table, other one is sales. Finally, I want to build dimension called dim product and fact sales, and fact sales should have the dimension key populated from our dimension table. All right, so that's how it is. So let's see, this data has been already entered in the on-prem DB. So what exactly I'm trying to do here between landing and curation. So landing and curation, I'm not doing much. I'm not doing too much of complex transformation, but I'm doing very simple transformation that is going to be like this. If I can take you into that specific query part, I'm in there, dim product and landing sales, this the details those I'm creating, the structure of the tables I already created, just we need to proceed with pipeline development only. This is the logic for reconciliation data, how data will be reconciled and result will be stored into the final reconciliation result table. All right, so you can have a look into the logic what I created here. this is the curation logic here. So this curation logic, this SP that I created is, this one, USP landing to curation. It's going to work dynamically for all the tables, right? I'm doing only one kind of transformation here. I'm copying the data as is from landing, but I'm creating one additional field here. Like for example, here in this case, product key, and that will be populated with unique ID. That's kind of hash key. Okay, this hash key will identify each row uniquely in dim product. In the same way, into sales table also I'm doing same thing, just I'm creating one hash key which is going to be unique identifier for each row in the table. All right, so this much transformation I'm doing, but in case if you have got very complex transformation, still you can do in the same way. You don't need to worry about the implementation. The implementation can be same. Just create a dynamic query or multiple tables got similar transformation logic, then your dynamic query should work for those tables. If other tables got different transformation logic, then of course you can just put here if conditions. If the table name is this, just implement that transformation logic. So you can switch that logic based on the table that is coming as input, right? So completely depends on the requirement, right? So in the same way, then loading table into serving layer. So there is one SP created, but in serving layer, as of now, I created separate SP for each table, but it's up to you whether you want to have dynamically implement within same SP. All right. So I created one SP for fact table like this. It will join the dimension table and sales table, then have the dimension key populated into fact, right? So then I'm loading dimension table as is. There is no any change at all. So why? Okay, if you ask me the question, why are we loading as is from curation into serving? Why can't we use this dimension table directly from curation? Well, so it's a good question, but still, our serving layer is the layer which is going to be used finally for our reporting and data analytics, right? So all the tables should be there in serving layer. So that's where, even though there are no changes I'm doing from curation to serving, but still I'm copying this dimension table as is, so that they can create a model by joining this facts and dimension table and have the report developed, right? All right, this is what it is, all the scripts. Enough spending time on these scripts, you can just go through. Now let me straight away jump on to ADF, which I already connected, and let's go ahead and create our pipeline. So the folder which I created is migration ETL framework. Within that I'm gonna create the pipeline. The first pipeline as per our plan is switcher. So I'm gonna just say PL underscore switcher. Okay, so in this switcher, what exactly we need? We need one activity to read the data from our config table. That is going to be the first config table from here. And in this table, if I can show you the structure, I have, no, it's in config TP, sorry. It's in this query analyzer. So if you look at that, there is source type. The source type, if it is file injection, it will be file. If it is table injection, it will be table. If something else, maybe you can have those values also inserted. So the key for our switcher pipeline is going to be source type, right? So, and also I'm going to create one parameter called SSID. This SSID is going to be the source system ID. For example, if you want to load the data for only source system, for example, if you take your on-prem has got multiple source systems like finance data, sales data, and HR data. So there are different source systems, right? So one is for finance, one is for HR, one is for sales. So if you want to load all the objects belong to sales source system, then you should be in a position to dynamically execute your framework for only the specific source system. So that's where I'm giving this parameter through which you can handle specific source system, right? So SSD going to be the source system ID. So that is going to be the filter in here, and I need to pull the data from config db. This should not only first row, and it's going to be the query. Let me write the query in here. So I can say select star from this table. Of course, not even required select star from. You can just still go only with one field, but I'm going to say select star from as of now. Then the where condition should be there, where the source system ID should be what? Our parameter value. Alright, so I'm gonna just say at the rate, and this should be within braces. Alright, so it's gonna fetch the required details. So I'm gonna name it as fetch source details. Alright, so the next thing, we need the next activity that's going to be for each activity to iterate through each row and find out what is the source system type and pass over to the next activity, right? So here I'm gonna just say iterate source type, I will say as of now. Okay, so settings, I'm gonna write expression here, and it has to pull all the values from this lookup activity, right? So I'm gonna just say output dot value. Alright, it's done. And within this for each, there should be a switcher, right? So I'm gonna just take a switch activity. So this switcher is going to switch the flow based on our input source type, right? So here I'm gonna say switch the I'm gonna just say switch the flow. Switch activity is like our case statement. So I'm gonna add one additional case here for file, and default one I'm gonna use for table. Alright, so as I said, I'm not building any pipeline for file ingestion, so I'm gonna just take wait activity for now, just leave it there. And here I'm gonna place the landing pipeline. So it's not ready yet, so let's finish first. Until then, let me just keep wait for now. I'm gonna just say publish. It's still, there is some error. Yeah, I did not complete the expression for switch activity. So I'm gonna just say add expression. So here the expression should be like source type, nothing else. Alright, so if the source type value is file, then go in this flow. If it is table, go in other flow. Alright, so it should be fine now. I should be in a position to publish so that our pipeline will be saved at least. Okay, so this is how the switcher pipeline going to be. Now let's start with the next step. Next step is what? Landing pipeline for table ingestion. So let's go ahead and create new pipeline. This pipeline going to take a bit more time, and the rest of the pipelines we can just clone and modify accordingly, so those will not take much time. Okay, so I'm gonna just PL on-prem to landing. Alright, so this is going to be the name, and here I created the required data sets already, so we no need to worry creating data sets and link services. Let's go ahead and use the existing link services and data sets. So the first activity that I need is again lookup activity, because I need to pull the source system details for the input that I'm getting through the parameter for the specific source system ID. Alright, so it is going to be like this, and I need parameters like two parameters. One is SSID, I'm just keeping here as well. Okay, so the other parameter should be load source type. I'm gonna just say here this flow has to do only for a table, right? So I'm gonna hard code that value as table, because this pipeline I'm going to build for only table. Okay, so that's it, and let me have other parameters. I just created the rest of the parameters here already. I don't want to waste time. So for on-prem to landing, I need ingestion type, means just source type, that's okay, and SSID. Then load type, I'm gonna just say one parameter load type. This parameter load type is mainly for pipeline run status, so I'm gonna just say load type here as on-prem to landing. Then another parameter, it's going to be trigger file. I'll tell you why trigger file is required to generate the trigger file. So value for that is going to be landing to curation, because why I given landing to curation is the trigger file that is going to generate to, I mean, it has to trigger the data load from landing to curation. That's where I given the name like that. So then this is the path where trigger file should be generated. I'm gonna say new, and the parameter name going to be trigger path. So these are the parameters required in this pipeline. That's it. So I need one variable as well. I'll tell you what for it is. I'm gonna just say process run ID. So I need pipeline run ID, which is mainly for data lineage. So I'm gonna capture that pipeline run ID into this variable, so that further this variable can be used for some condition. So as of now, let me just create one variable. That's it, we are done, and let me just complete the settings for this. Of course, I can just copy paste from switcher, because here also more or less same query. I'll just put only one additional condition there. Going to be config. The additional condition that I was speaking about is going to be, because it will filter the source system ID, but within one source system ID there could be multiple source types, maybe files and tables also. If we take finance, we might have files to be loaded and also tables to be loaded. So as this flow is mainly for table ingestion, so I need to put additional condition where and the source type equals to the parameter that I'm gonna pick, source type. Alright, so let me just say as it is, I mean string value, so I need to put that in single quotes. That's it. Yeah, done. I'm gonna just say okay, and the next activity is again for each. I'm gonna just say fetch source. Okay, settings are done. Now I'm gonna use the next activity. It's going to be again for each activity, which will loop through each table, and it's going to be again iterate through each table. I'm gonna just name it as like this. Okay, settings, and here just select array from that activity. That's it. Next, here gonna be I'm gonna use set variable activity because I created one variable. For that variable I need to set the value. So let me select the variable. That's process run ID, and I'm gonna just say generate process run ID. Okay, so variable and expression that I need to write is we can get the pipeline run ID from the system variables. That is going to be the pipeline run ID. That's it. The next activity is going to be the audit start. So for audit start, what I need is I need store procedure activity. So in here I need to call the SP, which can make entry in the pipeline run status table. So I'm gonna just name it as audit start. That's it. Gonna create link service. It's gonna be config, and store procedure is going to be USP pipeline run status. And if you look at the parameters, it has got huge number of parameters to be filled. Alright, these many parameters are there in that SP, and we need to pass on values for those parameters, right? So end date, I'm gonna make it null as of now because it's just only audit start. For start date, I'm gonna just pass the value through the function, that is date function. It is going to be UTC now. That's it. Then load type, it is going to be from the parameter which we created, that's load type. All right, so the value would be on-prem to landing. All right, so the pipeline name, it's again from the variables, system variables, pipeline name. Then I'm gonna just process run ID. Yes, here we can take process run ID as again from variable, but system variable, but we already set that process run ID to this variable. Let me use that directly. And sourceSchema name, it's going to be from, for each activity, item name is going to be, let me copy the column name as is from the table. That's it. Now I'm gonna just say sourceSystemId, it's again from parameter. We already created SSID, going to be there. sourceSystemName, again let me have this sourceSystemName. Done. sourceTable, let me take sourceTable from here. Next, sourceType. So sourceType again, right? So that we can pass over through the parameter, or else if you want to pass from the activity also, for each activity also you can do that, because that specific source type only will be coming through. All right, so that's okay. And then status, as of now I'm going to hard code it running because it just only start. Then target schema, it's going to be from lookup, for each activity it's going to be target schema. Next, target table, it's going to be again from here. All right, so that's it. So we are done with audit start settings. Now let me just go ahead and load the data, original data, right? So for that I'm going to use copy data activity to copy the data from on-prem into landing for each table that is coming through. So I'm gonna just say load. Alright, so and here we need to complete the settings, and database it's going to be on-prem db1, and I created the required parameters in the dataset. So in here I just created two parameters, schema and table name. We need to pass over those two details, right? So I'm gonna just say schema, it's from here for each activity, and let me take schema name as source schema because it's just source settings we are doing. Alright, so now source table name, it's going to be again from here. Yeah. Alright, we are done with our source settings. Now let's go into sync settings. Here sync is going to be AdvancedWorks DB because that's the database we gonna have all these layers in there. So I already created the schemas in that database. For landing layer, I created landing schema, then curation, serving. So I did not go through each and every line of the code. Yeah, fine. So here also again we need to pass the target table schema. It's again from the for each activity, and the column name it's going to be this, and then target table. So we don't need to worry about mapping, as the table structure is same, the mapping will be done automatically, so let's not worry about that. So now we are done with the main copy data activity. So next again we need to have stored procedure activity to to update the pipeline run status. If load is successfully done, then we need to update the status to success. For that, let me complete the settings. I'm gonna say update status success, and the stored procedure here it's going to be different. Let me just go and use the a SQL config db dataset, and here the link service is going to be SQL config. Here the stored procedure name it's going to be update pipeline run status, right? So I'll just say import stored procedure parameters. This has got less number of parameters, but let me just go ahead and complete those settings. So when I say audit start, the end date should be null, right? So now the end date here it should be some date when that load is done, right? So it will be again from functions etc now, and then process run ID would be from the variable, alright. Then next thing, so system ID it's going to be from parameter. So it might confuse if you miss anything. If you go in the flow, it never confuses it. It will be easy to implement end-to-end framework. Alright, so sourceTable it's going to be from this, alright. Now status is going to be success. Alright, this update stored procedure, the status update stored procedure will update the status from running to success. Alright, so then the target table. I'm gonna pass on the target table as well. Alright, that's it, done. Let me just go ahead and copy this activity and use it for failure status, as the structure and yes, store procedure used going to be same. I don't need to worry much, creating again. Yeah, in this case it should be when failed. When this activity is failed, then update the status to failed. As SP is same, I got nothing to do other than just changing this to fail. That's it. Alright, we are done. Almost we are done with the on-prem to landing pipeline. That's going to be the first pipeline. Only one step is pending within this pipeline, that is going to be trigger file generation. Alright, so to generate the trigger file, I'm gonna use copy data activity. It will get some details into the trigger file from pipeline run status, and those details would be the inputs for the next pipeline. It's going to be landing to curation. Alright, so I have already query created. Let me use that query as is, not here in the parameter section. Okay, so this is going to be, these are going to be the details where I am putting in trigger file, and those will be pulled from, as I said, pipeline run status table. So going to be the query. We need to just change the conditions. If you look at this, only one condition we need to change. The process run ID is same variable. We don't have to worry. And here, and only one parameter I need to change is load type. Why it is throwing error? So let us look into the parameters, how it is. Yeah, here it is small letter, that's where it is throwing error. Let me convert that into small. That's it. Yeah, done. So these are the fields, those I'm pulling into trigger file, and these would be the input values for the next pipeline. Alright, so process run ID I'm passing through this, so that it will, next pipeline will have same process run ID, because to maintain the data lineage end to end from landing to serving layer, you should have same process run ID. Alright, so that's where. Okay, let's go ahead and complete the sync settings, and here the trigger file will be generated into Azure data lake storage. I have the container created, that's a development container, but I don't have any folders in here and files also. So let's see how it will be created when I execute the pipeline. So first let's complete the settings. So I'm in here. So here you need to pass the trigger file name and trigger file path. That's it. So rest of the settings are already done. So it gets the trigger file name from this parameter, but here the way I want to create the file is exactly like this, as I given here, landing to curation underscore, I want to append a date here. Okay, so for that I'm gonna just use one function called concat, and after this I'm gonna append what? I'm gonna append UTC now function. So I'm gonna just say UTC now, and format, the date format that I want is YYY -mm -dd. Right, if you want to have even hours and minutes also, up to you. For me this is okay. I need to close one more bracket. Alright, so it's good. Say okay, and the trigger file path is going to be from the parameter that is trigger path. Alright, so I'm done with first two pipelines. One is switcher, other one is on-prem to landing. All right, so let's go ahead and build the rest of the pipelines. I'm going to name it as generate landing to curation, generate curation pipeline, I would say. Okay, just only curation pipeline. All right, fine. So for next, I'm gonna just clone this pipeline and do the changes for curation. I'm gonna just say landing to curation. All right, that's it. So here the changes those I need to do, this should be as is, no change in there, but the source should not be the table now. This time it should read the data from trigger file that's been generated as part of the previous pipeline execution, right? So for that, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna just go to settings, and here data set should be storage, and let me pass over the trigger file. Trigger file is going to be here. Let me first complete the parameters required. So see, apart from these parameters, let me show you what additional parameters are required. So landing to curation, it should hold landing to curation, that's load type. I don't want SSID here. I don't want even source type. Okay, load type, of course it is required. Here it should be not on-prem to landing, from landing to curation. So let me just update this to landing to curation, and trigger file, the source trigger file, it will be same where I generated before. Okay, so it's going to be path also going to be same. Now the new trigger files, the target trigger file, now let me just create target trigger file. It's going to be this, and value is, don't be confused, the target trigger file is for the next pipeline. So all right, now the path is going to be landing to curation. All right, done with all parameters, those are good enough. Now let's go ahead and change our settings. So here the trigger file would be the previous trigger file. It's trigger file, just trigger file, and path would be the trigger file path. All right, so from there it has to read the inputs and pass those inputs to for each activity. So here again settings would be same. All right, I got nothing to do, change. Yeah, inside the for each activity I need to do one change here. I don't want this set variable activity, because already we set the pipeline run ID, that's process run ID, in previous pipeline. So I need one lookup activity, because this time this lookup activity has to pull the required transformation logic from curation transformation logic table for the table that is passing through the for each activity. All right, the table details will come from trigger file, and that will be given to that output will be given to for each. For each will pass each table to this activity, and for that specific table it has to fetch the transformation logic from curation logic table. Alright, I hope it's clear. So I'm gonna just make again curation, and here I'm gonna make first row only, because every time it will pull only one row, because for only one table. Alright, so yeah, then it's going to be the query. So query is going to be like select star from the table that we created for curation logic, right? So let me get into config. Yeah, I'm in config. So this table is going to be the one which is holding the curation logic for each table. So let me execute once if it has got logic. Yeah, it has got logic for product and sales table, and nothing logic here. Logic, I built everything in the StorePozure. In case if you want to have different logic and write the query, and you can insert it here. But as of now, in my case, I did the logic through StorePozure. That StorePozure is going to be dynamic for every table, right? So that's where I did not insert here, because it's not specific for any table. Okay, it will work for all the tables. So yeah, what I need, I'll just show you. Then okay, it will pull the this details from this table for the given either source table or target table, anything we can pass over. I'm gonna just say source table. All right, that is product and sales. So where source table equals to this is going to be the source table from it's going to be source table. All right, so in case if in this table, if the source table field is with a different case, you can just copy paste there. All right, so done. It will fetch the required details from transformations. Yeah, all right, fetches only one record. We no need to loop through again. So even we can't have loop in other loop. So done. Then let me just say fetch curation transformation logic. Okay, next audit start. It's going to be almost same except a few changes. Here process run ID is going to be from trigger file. So just copy paste same thing. I'm gonna just say sourceSystemId. This is how we given the value in the trigger file. Same we need to paste in there. Alright, going to be like we can hard code that value, because it's anyways for we are, what we are doing is for table, so we can hard code here as table. And status running, then targetSchema, targetTable, then sourceSchema and sourceTable. So this sourceSchema, sourceTable, we need to get what we have in our curation logic table. So as we have to get from there, we need to change between there. So here it has to get from this table. So this table data is being read through this lookup activity. So if I get into source schema, it should be from activity called for each transformation logic activity first row. All right, so I'm gonna just say for each curation transformation logic first row dot, so the field name source schema. All right, that's how it should be. All right, so in the same way, let's complete even source table as well. It should be from the activities first row dot table name. Let me just copy the table name, source table name field. Then next thing, target schema. It's again going to be same. Target table is going to be. All right, so we are done with all the settings in here. I can publish, but as of now, let it be. Now here, copy data activity is no more required because we are loading that curation table from landing into curation through one SP. So I developed on SP. I'm gonna just use to stored procedure activity. So I'm gonna just call that. That stored procedure is sitting in, yeah, there's a stored procedure with curation schema, USP landing to curation. So I need to call this stored procedure. So that is going to be in advanced works. Stored procedure name is this USP landing to curation. So let me just call that and import the required parameters. So it needs only the source table name and target table name. That's it. The source table name and target table name coming through this activity. I'm gonna just say so the field name I need to pass, and then same way we need to pass the target table name, and this will be passed out as input values. Based on these input values, it will copy the data from landing to curation, and it will also do the required transformation. That's what this store procedure does. All right, so I'm gonna go for target table. Yeah. All right, so I'm almost done with this activity. Yeah, so then I'm gonna just name it as okay landing to curation. Then that's it, we are done with these settings. Okay, next step is audit success and audit failure entries. So let me just go ahead and complete the settings for audit success. So it's going to have same value, and then the process run ID is coming from where it should come from, not from the variable. This time it should come from for each activity where the process run ID is in there. Alright, so let me just go to the process run ID field that would have been in this, right? So let me copy this. Alright, it's done. Then source system ID, it requires source system ID. So I'm gonna just say again from. So let me see if the source system ID is there in our, yeah, it's there. It's coming through trigger file. So I'm gonna just say again. Alright, so we are done with all settings. Let me just copy paste same thing in here. Alright, so okay, so there are a few other settings those we need to complete for this. Process run ID, source system ID we already passed. Then source table, it should come through this activity. So then target table is going to be from again this activity. Alright, we are done with this settings. So let me just copy paste for failure as well. So except one change, rest all are fine. Fail, that's it. So we are done. Let me outline. The next step is pending in here is trigger file for recon pipeline. So that is going to be in here, and let me have a look into, yeah, we already given the required parameters. So let me just pass over. It's going to be trigger file. This time it's going to be the target trigger file. And again, let me just concat. So UTC now, let me just go in there. Okay, now I'm gonna do the date format. That's it. So let me just close this bracket. All done. So the target trigger path is going to be through this parameter. Alright, we're done. So let me just go to the source and check whether I given the date. I forgot to give the date. If I don't give, if I don't append the date, this activity will fail because it can't find any file without date. So I'm gonna just say UTC now. So I'm gonna just give the format. This is how the trigger file would be generated in the previous pipeline execution. So we need to call with the same name, then only our activity can pull the data from the trigger file. Alright, so it is done. Let me just publish. We are done with even curation pipeline. Next going to be, I'm just cloning. Land to curation reconciliation pipeline. So I'm gonna just say recon. Alright, so in here again going to be same step, but except the parameters, right? We need to change the parameters here. So let me go to the list of parameters those I created for recon. So it is going to be the trigger file is going to be from here, and target trigger file would be in name and different path. So here what I can do, trigger file location and this one, right? So I can give this target trigger file as trigger file location here, and target trigger path is going to be input here, right? So I'm gonna just give under trigger path. So that's one thing. And for target trigger file, now this time it's going to be like this: curation to serving. I can still give recon to serving, but really the data is being loaded from curation to serving. That's where I given curation to serving, and path would be curation to serving underscore trigger. Yeah, that's it. These are only the parameters are required. And load type, this time it's going to be landing to curation recon, right? So just only reconciliation. That's it, done with parameters. And now let's go ahead and complete the settings. The trigger file, of course, that's correct, and trigger file path, that's also correct. All right, so should be fine. Now this would be same, we got nothing to do in here, and let's go in there. And here this time the table name and the table from where it has to pull the data would be different. Let me go to the recon table. The table which holds the reconciliation logic is in here, ETLMeta.ReconLogic. Okay, so there is reconciliation logic implemented in this. I'm gonna just say for same source table it should be from item, so that's okay. Let me just say okay. Audit Start is going to have same parameters except sourceSchema, so it's not able to take sourceSchema because this name got changed. Otherwise it would have been same, right? So it should work as is, just only we need to take the name, that's it. Yeah, so let me just change the name, and the field from where it has to pull that information would be same, no change in there. Yeah, it's working. Same way even for source table. For target table it's going to be same, and here it's again going to be same. All right, that's it. And one thing I forgot in that trigger file, if you go in here, whatever you are getting from recon trigger file, right, it should be okay. So here again it should have the input, the source should be from where it should be from, again config table. It has to pull the details from this, but this time it's going to be condition here. Load type should be what we are passing through this, and it should have this sourceSystemId coming from this field. So it shouldn't be from parameter, it should be this time from, okay, it is going to be from this lookup activity, but here the value should be passed like this. Alright, the trigger file, so this is going to be so let me complete the curation first, and this is going to be like this, and here condition should be this query. I already pasted here, so let me use same query, but I'll change a few things if required. Same details, these are the details I wanted to load into trigger file, but here condition should be from this lookup activity. As this lookup returns multiple rows, so your condition should be passed in such a way that it has to pull. So multiple rows means JSON document, so it has to pull from the first document and sourceSystemId, and here you need to give proper name of that activity. I'm gonna just say fetch source details, otherwise I would say read trigger file. That's a bit meaningful. Alright, from this read trigger file I'm gonna just do one thing, pass the condition like read trigger file, and here also read trigger file, and have a look in here. The output value 0, the first document. From there just pull sourceSystemId, because it returns multiple rows. We are picking the sourceSystemId from the first row. In the same way here also. Okay, so that's how it's going to be. And here the condition load type is going to be like, one second, of course you can pass the parameter also. I'm gonna just say load type equals to landing to curation. Alright, so it's going to pull the details for landing to curation. I can either give the condition hard-coded condition here, or else I can just call the load type parameter. So let me just call that parameter load type. It's going to be like this. We are done with all settings. I'm just copying and pasting this query so that I don't need to change many values, because already I changed based on our trigger file. So that's it. We are done even with reconciliation pipeline. Now it's going to be the final pipeline, that is curation to serving layer. So I'm gonna just say clone, then pipeline, I'm gonna just say curation. Here again same, the setting should be, let me first complete the parameters. So it's going to be curation to serving, and trigger file is going to be this one, what was created in the recon pipeline. Yeah, I'm gonna just give that, and trigger path is going to be this, and we don't need these two parameters. That's it. So one thing under this, the trigger file generation, curation, generate serving layer trigger file. Alright, so reading the trigger file is correct. It's going to read from the given parameter. So in here we need to make few changes. and data has to be read from config.db, same like curation what we have done changes, right? So let me just copy paste this query. Alright, only one thing that we need to change here is read trigger file. So here again I can keep same name so that we don't need to make any changes. Let me have same name for this activity. Alright, so now those parameters would have been resolved in the condition. Yeah, alright, that's it, done. And load type is there already. The load type is learning to curation recon. Alright, so all done. We are done with trigger file creation and reconciliation pipeline as well. Now final pipeline which we are on the way to complete is curation to serving. So in serving pipeline, the final pipeline, we don't need any trigger file to be generated because this is going to be the last step as per our plan. Alright, this pipeline is going to be developed now, and this is done, this is done, this is done, and also in between learning and curation the reconciliation pipeline also done. Alright, so the source file would be in here. I'm gonna just again say source file, yeah, target file, then same date, that is fine, and path is going to be from again trigger path, so we got nothing to do here. Then within this for each activity, so this time it has to pull the data from where? It has to pull the data from logic being loaded for serving layer. So this is the table which holds the logic for serving layer. Let me just, the table name is going to be this post curation transformation. So let me just give the table name, and the source table equals to the source table name. That's okay, should be fine. Okay, now I would change this name to fetch serving logic. Now in the audit table I just need to change the fetch serving logic because I changed this activity name. Rest all should be fine except the name of that activity which I just changed should be fine. Then this also should be changed to the name I just given. Alright, yeah, alright, so we are done with audit settings as well. Now let me just go ahead and complete this activity, store project activities. So this time it has to dynamically execute the store project that I am passing through this, right? So whatever I'm pulling here through that activity, so it has to execute that store project. So this time it is going to be it should be dynamic because for serving layer there are different store projects created for each table, right? This is one for fact table, this is for dimension table. So these are SPs to be pulled to load the data into serving layer. So those details are inserted in here into this table. See here, this is fact table SP name and dimension table SP name. So I need to pull the data from here. Anyways, I'm pulling. Now what I need to pass over here is I need to give the field name through which I'm getting this SP, right? For that, what I'm gonna just say edit. It should be dynamic content, and it has to come from where? It has to come from this lookup activity. So if I go to settings, so yeah, I'm gonna just say activities for serving logic first row dot fetch serving logic and output dot first row dot the transmission query. Okay, this is going to be the field which provides the SP name. That's it. We are done with that activity, and here we need to pass the input values. So those are from the for each iterator. Source table name, it's going to be from trigger file. So that's it. Next. So let's see what is that source table name. In here we don't have any. Source table name should be like this. And target table name is going to be, and again it should be from this activity. And now let's pass these details from this for each serving layer logic, right? So I'm gonna just say the first row dot. So here, however, the field names are given for post curation transmission logic. So let me just say source table name is this, or this is going to be the target table name. And other one is going to be source table name, and it's again from that specific activity. I'm gonna just say, all right, next step pending is audit status update. That's it. So again here we need to get, so let me just pick only the name of this activity so that I can just make change in there. Rest everything should be same. It's going to be fetch serving logic, and this is going to be again fetch serving logic. That's it. We are done with these settings, and of course I can just copy paste rather than changing again. Make it fail. So when I'm copy pasting, it will be like same name, so I can just change that. In place of success, I'll update that to fail. That's it. So we are done with all the settings. One time I want to just check through each activity. I'm just publishing. So what is pending here? Iterated through each table. Okay, so here the name is changed. It is read trigger file, so we have to change that in for each activity. Alright, that's done. Let me just try publishing. It will show if there are any errors. Again, there is issue in recon pipeline as well. So here again changing the name. Done. Let's check again. SourceTable. and here source procedure. Again here the name has to be updated. Alright, so this has to be updated again. Done. Again, let's check. Yep, storage in the recon pipeline. So here I would say update fail status. So under settings, here again it is a fetch recon logic. It has to be updated. Under this, all good. Under this, fetch recon logic. So nothing. There are no major issues. Just only the name change, as we copy pasted at many instances. So we need to change as per the activity name that we provided. Alright, that's it. In update as well, of course, there is a name change. And here again, that's it. Done. Let's try publishing again. Alright, we are done with all the settings. So yeah, let me just quickly go through few important activities. If something is missing, let me just say autoline. Quickly, I want to go through trigger file especially. So source is fine, sync is fine. Let's see if we are getting any error. We'll just look back and we'll try to resolve them. So all done. Only one thing is pending is in the switcher pipeline. When it is switching the flow to table ingestion, there should be the landing pipeline being called here. Okay, so I'm gonna just use execute pipeline activity, and here naming I would say call on-prem to landing pipeline. Okay, then go to settings, call that pipeline name, that is on-prem to landing. Alright, it's going to be this, and that pipeline has got parameters. So either you can pass all the parameter values through parent, that is switcher, or if you want to proceed with existing pipeline values, those going to be the default values. You can just proceed. So for sourceSystemId, again, why I did not pass default value, let me just go ahead and pass. Okay, here let me just make it empty, because whatever I'm passing through the switcher pipeline, it has to pass over to that pipeline. So this is only one pipeline value I'm getting from the switcher. Alright, so I'm gonna just say, so it should be passed from that parameter. Let's see how it's going to work. That's it. I'm gonna just say publish again. If I change that parameter name here, 2 times D I'm giving, and I need to, in that case I need to change here as well. So did I give anything here? Nothing. There won't be any error here. So if I get into this, see, so I wanted to double check once whether I'm getting same parameter or not. I'm getting parameter from switcher, so that's fine. Let me just change back to single D so that it makes sense, right? So okay, I need to change here as well. Yeah, this is only double check, just wanted to check whether that parameter value I'm getting from switcher or not. So it should be from switcher. That's where I wanted to double check. All done. But one thing is pending, the triggering, right? So that has to be done. Let's do that. Okay. So from on-prem to landing, no trigger required. That is, switcher is the first pipeline. Automatically on-prem to landing will be executed. Then curation should be triggered through trigger file. So we need to add a trigger here. Go to new trigger, not curation to serving. Let me start with landing to curation. Let me just go ahead and create new trigger, and it's going to be new, and trigger name landing to curation, and here the type should not be scheduled, it should be storage event. Alright, so Azure subscription, it's going to be this, and storage account, it's going to be this, and container name, that is development, and then here blob path begins with. Okay, so path is going to be first pipeline, that's going to be landing to curation trigger path. So this is the one, the path, and blob path ends with, I would say, CSV. Okay, it ends with CSV, and it has to be triggered when blob is created. That's it. Say continue. That's it. Let me just go CSV. Let's see whether it is picking or not. Alright, it's going to be continue, and here it will ask us to provide the values. So you can provide while executing, but anyways I want to just pass the default values. So let me just say no, it's going to be landing to curation, and trigger file is going to be this, trigger path is going to be this, then target trigger file is going to be this, then target trigger path is going to be this. Let me just say okay. Alright, those trigger is created, and in the same way let's complete the trigger for reconciliation pipeline. So this has to be triggered when the trigger file is created at the given path. So I'm gonna just say recon trigger. So storage event from subscription, this is the one, account is the one, container is going to be development, and the path begins with, again it's going to be for landing to curation is done, then recon pipeline. So for this path has to be, file has to be under this path, and ends with CSV. That's okay. You can still give the exact file name, maybe that's fine for now. So here load type would be line integration, and trigger file would be this, and trigger file path would be this, and target trigger file is going to be this. Then target trigger path is going to be this. Alright, we are done. The next thing is pending, curation to serving. So here again we need to create trigger. Here we need to create trigger file, but we need to create trigger to be triggered automatically based on the blob created at the given location. So I'm gonna say curation to serving, and here again storage event, going to be subscription, going to be storage account, and container is going to be dev. Here again blob path is going to be under this location. If file is being created as .csv, that's it. Say continue, create blob, say continue. The parameter values, those we need to pass from here. Continue curation to serving, and trigger file name is going to be, path is this, and file name is going to be this. Alright, so I'm even done with even triggers as well. Let me just go ahead and publish the changes. So finally what we need to do, we need to just run the framework. This is end-to-end framework is done for the data migration. Let's see how is our framework is going to be executed. Failed to, yeah, let's see what is the issue with the trigger file. Let's see, in case if those are not triggered, then what we can do, we can just execute them through execute pipeline. So of course that is the simplest way. Instead of creating trigger files, you can execute them through execute pipeline by passing the input parameter values. So but still I wanted to show you with trigger files, right? So let me just run the switcher. So if I go to trigger, let me just go ahead and check triggers are active or not. So here triggers, so there are triggers created, but those are stopped. I don't know why those are stopped. Let me start them. Yeah, it started. This again, yeah. Okay, so let me just go ahead and execute pipeline. Before that, just I wanted to publish the changes. I hope this time it should. Why failed to get subscription status on storage event? What is the problem? So those are failing to activate. Not sure what is the reason for that. So let's execute them. If those are not going through through automatic trigger process, then let me just execute manually. That's okay. So I'm gonna execute switcher. The first pipeline to be executed is switcher. So we need parameter value, that's 101, sourceSystemId 101. That's what we are targeting to load. Let's see how our framework will execute. So let's not worry about trigger files. Anyways, files will be generated, but automatically will not be triggered because I'm not able to enable the triggers. Maybe some issue with the subscription, that's okay. So but still we can execute them manually. Like once landing is done, we can execute landing to curation. Once curation is done, then we can execute reconciliation. Then finally serving. All right, but still trigger files will be generated in the given location. That's what I'm expecting. So let's say once the first pipeline is done, we would expect the folder and respective file being created here. All right, so switcher is executed, and of course within the switcher, the pipeline what we have, that's land into curation, that also been executed successfully. So we would expect trigger file generated in this location. All right, so there is folder landing to curation, so there is trigger file generated with date that we given. All right, so now let's see if the rest of the pipelines are being triggered. I would expect no. So on-prem to landing is done, switcher, then on-prem to landing is done, then after that nothing is being run here. So the triggers are not working. That's okay. So it's because of my subscription issue, but for you it should work if you implement in the same way. So let me just, I'm trying to enable, but those are not starting. That is the reason. So that's fine. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna execute land into curation pipeline manually. It should take the inputs from the given the trigger file. That's it. We would expect, and before that, let's check if the pipeline execution status. We can see if entry has been made here. All right, there are entries in here. See, land into curation and on-prem to landing is done, it seems. So let's see the date and time. So of course date and time is first. Yeah, there are entries in there. Okay, so these are the records, those are loaded now, and rest all are old records, don't worry about them. And status also been updated success. Date is updated at end date, and rest of the values also will be updated in there. All right, so all right, now it seems it is done. So landing to curation, it is done, but still it is showing in progress. What is the reason? Let's have a look. It might be at audit, should be success, and it should also be for sourceSystemId. All right, but it is executed successfully, that we'll see later. Okay, so now I'm gonna trigger next pipeline, that is landing to curation. All right, let me just open that. So let's see if the trigger file is generated for landing to curation. Trigger file also not been generated. What is the issue? So landing to curation pipeline is executed successfully, but there is no trigger file generated. What was the reason why trigger file is not generated? So the source is same. Okay, load type and sync should be like trigger file and trigger path. Okay, here under parameters, so let's check target trigger file and target trigger path. So we did not change that, we given trigger file, but here it should be target trigger file. Okay, so that's where we are trying to create our trigger file. So target trigger file, and here it should be target trigger path. So that's why we could see the trigger file generated for learning to curation recon pipeline. So there should be trigger file created now. Here source table name is from there. It's correct. And this one, so sourceSystemId is going to be same. Process run ID is going to be, yeah, here the process run ID we should not give the one what we can pull from the parameter, so it should be from variable. That's where the condition is not matched and status is not being updated to success. So here again same. If you look at process run ID, it shouldn't be process run ID like this. It should be from, so again let's use the variable process run ID. Yeah. So alright, let's see. This time there should be trigger file generated once the learning to curation pipeline is executed. So before that, let's check whether it is overwritten somewhere. Yeah. So now, so let me execute from learning all the way again from switcher. Before doing that, let me just delete this file. So I'm just executing all the way from switcher again. Alright. So on-prem to learning is done. Okay, so trigger file is being generated. Now we would expect, so let's execute the next pipeline, that's PL learning to curation. Let's see. Yep. Alright, so learning to curation also done. Now let's see if trigger file is generated. Alright, so now learning to curation recon trigger file is created. This is the file. The next pipeline is going to be learning to curation recon pipeline. So let me execute that. Alright, there is issue with the trigger file, so let's check. Okay, index 0 cannot be resolved. Okay, so reason is why it is failed. In this trigger file, there is trigger file generated. In this pipeline, there is trigger file generated, but it doesn't have any value in there. So why there is no value at all? So here, so system ID, process run ID, then we should have the values for that process run ID. That's what it is, but we are not getting any value in there. So let me just preview the data and pass sourceSystemId 101. The load type is going to be learning to curation. Not sure if we have the value with that condition. Alright, we have learning to curation. Then what is the problem? we don't have process run ID loaded in here. Why there is no process run ID? Landing to curation. So let's check there. Landing to curation, there should be process run ID loaded into, yeah, here the variable. Here we can't select from the variable because that variable we added only in the first pipeline on-prem to landing. So here that should be coming from this lookup activity. That should be coming from the first lookup activity. So where we have the query to fetch even, everywhere it's going to be process run ID from this file. Okay. Audit Start. Process run ID from this item. It should work now. Yeah, that's it. So in the same way, it has to be updated in here as well. So then there's one condition, and the third condition what we have in here, that's it. It should work now. And if you look into this again, whether we are properly passing that source system ID, it's again should come from, yeah, that's correct. So it should work now. Let me just delete this. It will be created again. I'm gonna just execute landing to curation pipeline. Landing to curation. So once it is executed, there should be trigger file generated, and trigger file should create with data. So once it gets some inputs, then our reconciliation pipeline will execute. Once reconciliation pipeline is executed, then our serving layer pipeline also will be executed. Though it is lengthy, but I'm trying to troubleshoot if there are any issues and how we can resolve them. So this troubleshooting steps definitely will gonna help. Development is simple, but when you get the issues, troubleshooting the issue and resolving them is key, right? So I didn't want to switch up the video while I'm getting the issues. I want to show the troubleshooting steps. Now let's see whether trigger file is generated. There is folder created. Alright, now trigger file seems to be populated with the data. Yes, it has populated with data. Now our reconciliation pipeline should execute without any error. Alright, so let's see once it is done whether trigger file generated successfully or not for serving layer. Alright, there is landing to curation recon pipeline is executed successfully, and let's see if trigger file is being generated. Yeah, there is trigger folder, and within that file also there. Let's see if there is any data populated. Of course there is data populated in there. Alright, so there is only one pipeline left, that is curation to serving. Let's go ahead and execute that pipeline. Before executing, let's check the path once. Yeah, the parameters, yes, seems to be good. Let's trigger it. If this is executed successfully, end to end we executed all the pipelines, switcher on-prem to landing, then landing to curation, landing to curation recon, then finally curation to serving. So everything as expected, we could able to complete the framework and execute, but only one thing did not work is auto trigger. Even the trigger files are generated, but pipelines are not triggered automatically because triggers are not getting started. That seems to be some issue. Yeah, if you don't have that issue in your project, then you don't have, you don't get that issue. So if you don't have that issue, then obviously your pipelines will be automatically triggered and executed. All right, so let's wait for this final pipe. Once this pipeline is executed, we could expect data being populated into our fact and dimension tables. All right, it seems to be going through. All right, it's going through. Superb. So our pipeline is executed successfully. Now let's get in there and check if data been populated into fact table or not. So let me check the fact table. This is the fact table. So let me just execute. All right, it has populated with required data, and there are product key also been populated from our dimension table. So if I can execute the query on dimension table, you could even see the data been populated into dimension table as well. Alright, successful. This is how our framework will work and load the data from all the tables, those we are passing through the config tables, and it will execute all the curation logic that we are passing through ETLMeta.Data config table, and it will execute even the logic for recon and serving layer tables as per the specifications provided through config table. So I hope this is clear, and it is. I know that it's a very lengthy video, but if you go step by step, it will be easy. And even I shown the troubleshooting steps also in case if there are any issues. So I think it's going to be helpful. Thanks for watching my video. We'll meet again with a different concept. Until then, bye bye. Thank you.